This video tutorial shows how to use the Maptitude Territory Manager to modify territory layers. You may want to first watch one of the separate tutorials on creating territory layers before proceeding. Using the address and territory data in this Excel spreadsheet of customers, I created a map that contains both a point layer of the customer locations and a territory layer showing the territories to which the customers are currently assigned. I want to make the territories more balanced and create an updated spreadsheet that accounts for changes to the territories. On the List tab, you will see the territories and the values for the chosen tracking fields. So for example, here you can see that the South Territory has total sales that are almost double the sales in the Northeast Territory. And here you can see the population of each territory. One thing you may notice is that some of the territories have some holes in them. Any zip code that did not have any customer in the spreadsheet was omitted from the territories when they were created. I can automatically assign any holes that are entirely surrounded by a unique territory, such as these, to their respective surrounding territories by choosing Auto Assign Unassigned Holes from this dropdown. Other holes that are on a boundary can be assigned to a territory manually. For example, to assign this hole to the South Territory, either choose the South Territory from the Edit drop-down list, or by using the Territory Picker button and clicking on the South Territory. Notice that the South Territory is now chosen in the Edit drop-down list. Make sure that Empty Areas is chosen in the Select drop-down list if you don't want to move any zip codes that are already in one of the other territories. And then use these tools to select zip codes to move. For example, I'm going to use the Select by Pointing tool and click on this zip code to add it to the South Territory. Now click this button to save the change. Maptitude updates the territory boundary and the population total. I'm going to choose the Downtown Territory now and click this button to zoom to the territory and see if there are any zip codes that I missed here. This time I will use the Select by Rectangle tool to add these remaining zip codes to the Downtown Territory. Now let's take another look at how the sales vary by territory. I want to adjust the territories so that the sales totals are more balanced. I'll start by moving some zip codes into the Northeast Territory. And I don't want sales territories to overlap, so I'm going to choose Any Area and Prevent Overlaps here. What this will do now is allow me to add zip codes to the Northeast Territory while simultaneously removing them from whatever territory they are currently assigned to. I'm also going to click the Changes tab so that I can track how the sales totals for the territories change as I move zip codes from one territory to another. Now, if I use the Select by Pointing tool and click on a zip code to move, you can see that the Northeast Territory will gain $341,724 in sales, and the Downtown Territory will decrease by the same amount. I'm going to use the scroll wheel on my mouse to zoom out, and continue to click on more zip codes in the Downtown and South Territories to get the sales more balanced. You can see now that the sales totals are more balanced for these three territories, so I'll go ahead and save the changes. If I click the List tab, you can now see that all four territories are fairly balanced, though I could consider moving some more zip codes to the Northwest Territory if I wanted to be even more precise. A final check is to see if there are any territories that are discontiguous. I'm going to choose Find Non-Touching Areas from this dropdown. It has found one small portion of the South Territory that is not connected to the rest of the territory. Clicking this button will zoom to the area in question. I'm going to assign this zip code to the Northwest Territory since it is entirely contained within that territory. Now that the territories are more balanced and contiguous, there's one last thing to do, and that is to update the customers with their new territories. For example, if I make the customer layer the working layer and use the info tool on this customer here in the zip code I just moved, you will see that the territory field still contains the original South value, even though the customer is now located in our Northwest Territory. To fix this, I'm going to open a data view of the customer layer. The territory field currently contains the original territory each customer was in. Highlight the field and choose Edit, Fill. Choose the tag method using the territories layer and tag with territory. When I click OK, Maptitude will compare each customer with the territory layer and fill the field with the name of the territory in which the customer is now located. When I use the Info tool on the same customer, you will see that the territory is now correct. Now that the territories are modified and the customers are updated with their new territory assignments, I can export all of this information back to Excel by clicking this button. Highlight which territories to include in the Excel file, and click OK. Maptitude creates a new Excel workbook with several sheets. The first sheet has the sales and population data that I chose to track for each territory. The next sheet lists all of the territories and the zip codes they comprise. This sheet contains demographic overlay information about the territories, including the population, estimated household income, the number of households for various income ranges, age, racial distribution, and housing data. And this sheet is very similar to the original customer Excel file that I used to create the territories. Only this one now has the newly revised territory for each customer, along with their latitude and longitude coordinates. And that wraps up this tutorial on using the Territory Manager.